What is up, guys? Rysum here, and welcome back to Space Engineers. Now, everybody knows that planets are right around the corner, and because of that, we've all been scrambling and building tons of vehicles and cars and trucks and all kinds of crazy stuff, even planetary bases, and I'm all super hyped for that. But one of the things that I really wanted to do before planets came out was build one of these guys, and you're probably wondering what this is. Now, this is my interpretation of a space elevator. Now, if you don't know what a space elevator is, basically it's like any other elevator, except for it goes from the surface of a planet all the way up into space. So, as you can imagine, it's pretty crazy, and in fact, in real life, it's mostly just theorized and proposed as prototypes right now, because we don't actually have the amount of resources and the necessary materials needed to build something on this scale. But moving on to the features of this ship. If I go to the top of the ship here, you can see that I have tons and tons of thrusters, and also you can see that I've got one pair of welders and one pair of grinders, and I'll go more into that in a moment. I also have 4 connectors, one on each side, to allow access to the cargo container and the storage on board. In the center here, you can see I have 3 sets of wheels on any side of the ship. And what these wheels basically do is they basically hug the rail. So you know how elevators in real life are usually connected by a cable, or they're in some sort of shaft that allows them to move up and down. Well, basically I have it so the wheels are hugging the rail, and this allows the elevator to move up and down along the elevator rail or shaft, or whatever you'd like to call it. Alright, at the bottom of the ship here, you can see I have 4 crew passenger seats, and I've got 2 medium storage containers and 2 large reactors on both sides. Now, these cargo containers are mostly for the uranium for the reactors and the materials necessary to build what you'll see in a moment. On the bottom, you've got a whole bunch of thrusters, you've even got some cameras, and you've got some landing gear securing it to the platform. Now, with a conventional space elevator, you would usually build the shaft or the initial structure that the elevator would move up and down on. Now, this is great for something in real life, of course, but in Space Engineers, I took it one step further, and that's where these welders and grinders come into play. So, this base block that the whole elevator is sitting on, you can't see it from this window here, but you can see the reactor. Above this reactor is a projector block, and that projector block is projecting a huge hologram of a 1x1 tower of large ship blocks, and I think it's almost 2,000 meters tall, which is pretty dang tall, and enough to get into space off of the planets that are planning to be implemented into the game. But I know you're all dying to see it in action, so I'm going to skip right to that, and I'm going to hop into one of these seats here. Now, keep in mind, these seats would most likely be for the crew of the ship, and those operating on the ship rather than some sort of passengers. If I press the K key, I can open up my menu, and under the control panel, I can access the controls group. Now, I just press control once again, and now I'm in control of the ship. Okay, so if I hit tab, you can see my HUD, and you can see I have 4 pages of controls that look very, very intimidating, but trust me, I'll go over each one and how it works. Now, first things first, we need to detach from the base of the ground base so we can make our way up into space. So, on page 2, I'm going to hit the 5 key to disengage the landing gear, and the 4 key to retract them back into the ship. Now that that's done, I can worry about turning on my welders. So if you look at my welders on the top of the ship, I can press the 3 key to turn those on, And now I'm all primed and ready to go. But let's say I wanted to add some sort of cargo onto my ship. If I go to the first page again, you can see I have all these rotors, and if I press the 6, 7, 8, and 9 keys, I can individually open up all these platforms. And you see they have merge blocks on both the top and the bottom, which allows for a whole bunch of different configurations of cargo and ship and passengers and whatnot. Okay, and finally, let's launch this thing into space. Now I have to admit, space elevators are pretty impractical in Space Engineers when you can create a ship that goes straight up into space, but nevertheless, I thought this was pretty interesting as a proof of concept. Okay, and all I have to do now is press the space bar, and my ship will begin to move upward. And as you see, as I move upward along the projection, I'm also building it in the process with my welders. And I can almost hold down the spacebar all the way and let this thing just fly at its own speed. I am pulsing it, however, because if you gain too much velocity, you will start to skip blocks and it gets messy, and you don't really want to do that. Now, I could continue to do this for a really, really long time up until I'm into space, but I'm going to skip to some clips that will show you basically how I think this should work. Alright, now let's say I want to go down. So all I've got to do is press the 3 key, and instead press the 4 key to turn on my grinders, and I can continue with the same process. Now, of course, all of this depends on how your settings are for the actual world. Since you can alter the speed of welding and grinding in the world settings, it's important to know what you're getting into if you put the grinder speed on very low. So if I turned it up, of course, grinding would be much faster and much more efficient, and I'll show a clip of that as well. But in this world, the grinding speed is set a little bit lower. And by the way, I'd like to thank Wasted Space for creating this world. Most of you guys have probably seen this. It is the planet voxel map, kind of mock-up of what a planet could look like. And it was created by Wasted Space. The link will be in the description down below. Okay, and you're probably thinking one last thing. Well, let's say I'm along the rail, and I don't really want to fall down because this ship's going to have gravity affecting it. Well, I devised a device right underneath the welders and the grinders, which is simply a piston and a landing gear on it, and this will clamp down onto the elevator shaft. If I can access my controls again. So let me hop back into my character, jump into the seat, grab the controls again, and go to page 2. I shall press the 1 key to extend the pistons. Okay, go back into this view. 1 key to extend the pistons, and the 2 key to lock them in place. And now this prevents the space elevator from falling down the elevator shaft. So if you guys like the video, be sure to like the video. If you'd like to download this awesome contraption and this base platform, along with the blueprint for this tall elevator shaft, then the link will be in the description below to the Steam Workshop where you can download it. And if you guys do not know how to download worlds from the Steam Workshop, there'll be another video on my channel up pretty soon on how to do that, so stay tuned for that. Anyways guys, if you liked the video, be sure to like the video, comment if you want to see some future stuff from me, and even subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I will see you guys next time.